the titanic proportions of the mystery of Dasein as a central part of historicism consist of the claim that this is not the work of mystagogue or theosopher or anything other than the cool, sober look at things how they are and attempt to, as it were, call our attention to them. So, death in Heidegger plays this role which is analogous to the metaphysical thinking of Aristotle of the withholding of dunamis, which we interpret and translate into our own time as potential, as that which makes a human being a human being. So a human being has certain kind of characteristics and an ethos or more, and then we can forbear keeping to a custom or a set or a moral, customs or morals of our time, by withdrawing into theoretical gaze, sitting in the balcony in the theater and looking at the stage play, looking on from outside. There's a withdrawal which lets the human being then come in and orchestrate a symphony through the break. So that's the way it looks from the tradition from Aristotle, from metaphysics. But what Dasein attempts to do is see it more simply by pointing out that primarily we're not the one that is one among others having this conversation about whatever it may be, but we're primarily the one who has our own life and therefore our own potential or dunamis, which then we know has this extreme possibility of death, which would be the negative potential then of the dunamis that's already playing out. Typical. So just to make it more clear, the typical dunamis would be something like any skill, tying of the shoes, architecture. Somebody plans a cathedral. Or somebody who knows how to do brickwork and lay the first bricks according to the plan of the cathedral maker, simply is not doing what they could do, the holding back of the potential. I can dig a ditch. If I have a shovel, I can dig a ditch. I have that potential, but I'm not doing it now. In the same way, death is playing this negative role. So we see this in several ways. One, in the straightforward way that the ditch digging that's not happening now. Another, in the sense that we can hold all that before our gaze, like the theater goer, or like the one who goes to see the processions and the religious processions, as it were, religious in scare quotes, I guess, of the other countries or city countries, policies. So this, if we could enter into that, this is a direct reflection on the mystery of Dasein as this which has this negative potential to draw back from the everyone into that which will disappear with death, specifically that which will disappear with death, the specific concern of that specific Dasein, which is in play with the general happenings, which one is also as what Heidegger calls Dasein, but as the language being, which each one with their death is partly opened up into. Um, so this touches on a couple of themes from last time. We were trying to talk about this political origins of some of these ideas with regard to fact-value distinction. What left out is then the metaphysical origins, or this question of the human, the Kant question, opening up the question of the is and ought, and then it being finally worked out by Simmel, and how that was being used in Prussia in the end of the 19th century. So there's that. There's the way it was being used. There's the discussion about it itself, the epistemological discussion, and then there's the legal questions that overlap and flow from that. Thinking in this regard, we could make a step from that fact-value distinction, which establishes in a way a new religion, the religion where the greatest authority is the so-called fact, where the fact is basically only can be achieved in institutions, and it has to do with experiment and systematic experiment and double-blind rigors, and that has been repeated a number of times, and et cetera, et cetera. Only certain agents can say what this is, and it cuts out all experience and the authority of experience. But the Nietzschean move is beneath this and questioning all of it. So then when we look at just Dasein, we have to kind of glance out and see how much of this is happening in the discussion, as it were, that's already there, where fact already means what it means and is already connected to the authority of the religion of science, and then how so far we, as this Dasein that has our own death, can pull back from this potential, which is being played out just like, so like the ditch is being dug now. But then there's this one that kind of goes back a little way and looks at it like the theater goer. Oh, so the ditch is being dug, but it's being dug by Dasein, even though we ourselves are that Dasein still, even however much we withdraw back into the balcony. The attempt to not just be drawn back into the balcony and looking at ourselves, as it were, as the language being, the group language being, to go to Dasein is then in some way illustrated by what has just been said.